Afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Tasha M. Scott, and I am a professional speaker, coach, trainer, author. I am a woman who is passionate about helping others to discover their purpose, maximize their potential so they can maximize their existence.
And y'all, when I read this book, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman has been stalking my life. Because I'm serious, everything in there, I was like, she gets me. She actually gets me. I am here. Yes, I give myself permission.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And I love interaction. I love interaction, and I would love if you would share this out to your audience as well. Today, we are finishing, actually, this is day 2 of a conversation on how to maximize your existence. I'm actually sharing some nuggets, highlights of nuggets that I shared at the Conquer Conference this past weekend in Lincoln, Nebraska. If you did not get a chance to see yesterday's broadcast, you'll definitely want to go back and watch that. We started the conversation about how do you really uncover your purpose? And we had some good conversation. I'm not going to repeat that, but I'll just say this. After the broadcast was over yesterday, I actually had people who did the exercises that I actually mentioned in that broadcast. And many of you all said that you had aha moments and breakthroughs. This is exactly what happened at the conference as well. And there were some questions that came up around identifying what your purpose is. And some of y'all actually said that you know what your purpose is, but you don't know how to take the next obvious step. So that's what we're going to talk about today is once you have actually done the work to uncover what your purpose is, you have done the work to identify based on your greatest achievements and your greatest failures or setbacks. Now it's time to take the next step. And let's dig in for that today, okay? So what is the next step? Either on uncovering your purpose or going to the next level. One of the things that I always say is that you have to build faith around your purpose. So many times, and I can say this, I'm a visionary. So many times we will get a word from God and we'll feel like we know what we're supposed to do and we'll run with it because we see the vision down the road and we do everything in our own strength trying to make it happen. Anybody guilty? Or am I just the only one? I've done that. When I first started my court reporting business 16 years ago, I knew that I wanted to be in business. I knew that I felt even called to business. I remember even that first year of business, I set out and I said, I'm going to have a 6-figure business. And I did everything in my power to make that happen. And here's the thing, y'all, it happened. At the end of that first year, I got the 6-figure business, checked that off my list. But what I didn't plan for was I didn't plan for the growth. And here's the other thing I didn't plan for. I didn't plan because once I started tasting success, I didn't have plans in place to ensure that I would sustain the success. In other words, when I say I did it in my own strength, it was like, okay, God, I got this. Not verbally saying this, but all of my actions said that I didn't need to spend time with God. I didn't need to seek him for wisdom. I didn't need to seek him for the further growth. It was like I was on a high from the ambition, from the success that I was experiencing. And I literally started operating in my own strength without consulting with him about the sustained success that he wanted me to have. Are y'all following me? So today, like I mentioned, we're talking about how to maximize your existence Well, I say you have to, once you uncover what your purpose is, build faith in that area. So let me pause right here for a minute. How many of you all know what your purpose is? Just put in the comments, yes, Tasha, I know, or no, I'm still trying to figure it out. Either way, and I'm going to say hello to some people who just joined us. Hi, Tamra. Hi, Lakarsha. Hi, Rashonda. So good to have you on here. Hi, Aisha. Happy birthday, girl. Rashonda, thank you so much. Thank you. So I want to hear some feedback. Rashonda says, yes. Anybody else? Have you discovered what your purpose is, or no, you're still trying to figure it out? Either way. Or here's another category. You may know what the purpose is, but you don't know what the next step is on how to make it come to life. Hi, Lakarsa. Dabrika says, yes, kinda. Okay, so I'm going to take that to mean, Dabrika, that you know what it is, but then you also are still trying to figure out how to, in my word, maximize what that looks like for you. Aisha says, yes, I think so. So we have a kinda, a yes, I think so. Okay. Tamara says, I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay. Well, here's what I want to talk to you all about today. Whether you're in the category of, yes, I know what it is, or kind of know what it is, or still trying to figure it out, what I would encourage you to do in how to build your faith around your purpose, there's 3 things that I want to talk to you about today. One of them is when we feel like God has downloaded what our purpose is, and again, we talked about this yesterday, either you acknowledge it from your greatest strengths, or you find clues in your greatest setbacks or your failures. So once you've gotten to the place where you say, okay, God, I believe this is what you're calling me to do, then what we have to do, the very first thing, is we have to get wisdom. That's number 1. We have to get wisdom. And how do we get wisdom? What I always like to say is we go right back to our designer. We go right back to God. We go to his word and we look for clues on, okay, God, help me to line up with my mind what you say about who I am and why you created me. So we look for clues in his word. That's our mirror. That's the first way or first step on getting wisdom, is we go back to the designer, back to the one who gave it to us. My mistake was I got the download, but then instead of going back to my designer, and I ran and I did it in my own strength, to where at the end of that first year, I got the 6 figures, but I was burnt out, tired, y'all. And I did not plan for the success because it was built on a faulty foundation. So that's number 1, is I say, get wisdom. Who does God say you are? Why has he created you? And the best thing that you can do is find you a promise or promises in his word about that thing that you feel like God is saying, this is who you are. This is why I created you. And then you take that thing and you meditate on it. And y'all know what meditate means. Most of us know how to worry, right? Because we're thinking about something over and over and over again. That's exactly what meditation is. We're actually thinking about something over and over again, except for we're doing the reverse of what worry is. All right. So the first step is get wisdom. Go back to the designer. Go back to who God said you were. Go back to why he said he created you, and find you a promise around that thing that you believe God is calling you into. The second thing is get understanding. So after you've gone back to him and you've literally given him this, because it all belongs to him, the second thing is you actually need to get understanding. And how do you do that? Well, here's the thing. God has surrounded us with resources. Resources can be in the form of people. It can be in the form of books, of podcasts, live streams. It could be in the form of you showing up and going to conferences, because now that you get the wisdom and you know the direction that you're going in, now you want to get understanding. This is how you're going to know what to study. This is how you're going to know what to research. Let's say you feel like God has called you in the area of finances. You feel like God has called you to be a financial advisor. So your getting understanding means that you're going to study in that area. You're going to study about what does becoming a financial advisor look like. Let's say he's called you to be a coach. You're going to study, you're going to research resources in that area. Does that make sense, y'all? That's how you're going to get understanding. You're going to search out the things. Now, I said the first thing in getting wisdom is going back to the designer. That's in his word to identify who you are and why you are created the way you are, looking at the mirror. But the second thing is you've got to get understanding around that thing. So many times I hear people say, well, I'm just waiting on God. I'm waiting on God to tell me what the next step is. I'm waiting on God to speak to me. Well, what if God is waiting on you? What if he's waiting on me? And what if he's saying, I'm downloading this in you, but now what I want you to do is I want you to go seek it out. Seek the understanding in that area. Am I talking to anybody? Is this making any sense to you all today? How many of you all were like me, where you skipped over the understanding and you just ran with the thing only to find yourself crashing and burning? Anybody want to be honest? That was me. So what I'm sharing with you today, it's literally the wisdom, the lessons that I learned in how to operate business in my own strength or how to operate in God's strength. So Aisha, I see your hands. Thank you for your honesty. So you get understanding, you research in the area. This is how you also avoid information overload. Information overload is you're just grasping for information everywhere. You're going to everything, you're reading everything, you're listening to everything, and all that does in the information overload is leave you basically confused. And it's basically like you're so overloaded, you don't know which direction to take or what step to go into because you have gotten so much information. And so doing it the way that I'm talking about is first, again, going back to your designer, getting that wisdom from him, and then getting the understanding in the area that you really feel like he's calling you into. Rashonda, I'm going to pick on you. If you're still on here, she is a guru when it comes to doing live stream videos. If you notice, everything that she talks about is showing up live. Chances are she had to, in addition to the natural talent, gifts, and abilities that she had, she also probably researched that area and became an expert in that area. Rashonda, if you're on here, let me know if I'm telling the truth. All right. The third thing is after you get wisdom, after you get understanding, the next thing is you're going to apply knowledge. Now, this is all about the how. This is now that you are building that faith muscle for you walking out your purpose and maximizing your existence. Now you're going to do the most obvious step that's in front of you. This is where some people miss it, because let's say we really feel like God is calling us to business, or he's calling us to be a coach or be a writer or be somebody that helps people overcome in the very areas that we had to overcome. And sometimes I can say this, y'all, because I'm a visionary. Sometimes we will see the bigger picture and we think instead of doing the little bitty steps in front of us, that we got to go all the way to the mission fields, or we got to go all the way to the top. And what he's saying in the applying knowledge is, I just want you to do the most obvious step that's right in front of you. Because a lot of times what happens is God wants to build character in us so that we can grow into the vision that he has for us, so that we can grow into this purpose that leads to our destiny. Some of y'all, and I'm speaking from experience, the most obvious step may be so small that you have overlooked it because you were looking for something bigger. I'm talking about how to maximize your existence today. Applied knowledge is, I've got to take the most obvious step that's in front of me. I've got to be obedient to the simple instruction that's right in front of me. That might be, just giving some examples, clean your house. That might be forgive yourself. I'm talking about the most obvious step. It might be buy the domain name. It might be get the business license. The most obvious step might be, I heard Joyce Meyer say one time, make your bed. The most obvious step. That's what you need to do when you apply the knowledge, is do the most obvious step that's in front of you. Don't complicate it, but just do that step. Because when you do that step, then you'll get instruction for the next step. Dabrika says, yep, that's what I was thinking. Lakarsha says, so true. Yeah, so let me hear from you. What are some obvious steps that maybe you have taken in the past that has led you to where you are? Or anybody want to get really honest and tell me, what is the obvious step that you have been procrastinating on because you have been thinking it was supposed to be something bigger? Anybody want to get honest? So anybody want to tell me, what is an obvious step that you thought was so small, but that is the obvious step that's right in front of you? Doing the dishes. I can't tell you how many times just vacuuming my house that I have, that God has downloaded creative ideas for my business, just doing the most obvious step. Getting a mentor could be the most obvious step. Buying the book that's going to help you could be the most obvious step. For me, this is a step. Getting on a Facebook Live is an obvious step for me, because if I'm going to connect with my audience and really walk out what my purpose looks like, this is an obvious step for me right now. Okay, so again, your obvious step may be something so simple, but it's the very thing that you need to do in order to get the instructions for the next step. When I got the understanding about writing a book, about becoming a coach, my obvious step was first just writing in a journal. That was all I knew to do at the time, was to write my thoughts in a journal, handwritten, nothing typed up, nothing fancy. And as I was writing in my journal, I got the desire to do more with this. I went to my coach and I said, I really feel like I have a book in me. So did the journaling, and then the next step was to talk it over with my coach. The next step after that is she gave me some instructions, and she taught me how to write raw, how to get it all out of me in raw format. After that, the next step was, okay, so now that I have this transcript in front of me, I feel like I need somebody that needs to help me organize this. And so my next step then was to get a copy editor to help me, somebody that could help me stay true to my voice without tearing it to pieces. Make sense? So that was the most obvious step, was to get the copy editor. After I got the copy editor, she helped me to polish this, have it in book form. Then I needed to go get a publisher. Even though I was self-publishing, I needed to get somebody that would help me format this, design the book cover, and all of that. And the next thing, the next step led to the next step, led to the next step, that birthed my first book, Don't Limit Me. It started with a desire, even before the journaling, it started with a desire to get me together, to get help for my own personal growth, for my own mess that I was in. And one step led to another. Now, here I am 4 years later. I've got 2 books. I've got a speaking career. I'm a certified coach. And I don't even feel like this is the end. Does that make sense, y'all? But what I knew to do was to get the wisdom for who do you say I am? Get the understanding, go searching for the resources. And the next thing was apply the knowledge. Those were things that I did on how to build my faith around the purpose that I felt like God was calling me into. Rod Robinson says, whatsoever he or she shall prosper, God can't bless what we will not do. #doing. Yes, I totally agree. And I believe at the end of the day, thank you for sharing that, Rod. I believe at the end of the day that God cares about the vessels He cares about us so much that he will not give us something to do before he will also call us to work on ourselves from the inside out. And ultimately, it's him working, yes. But I believe that he will surround us with the right people, with the right resources, because our who, to me, is even more important than our do. Because when I get to the place where the vision is ultimately fulfilled, I want to be able to know that I can handle it in his strength, not my own. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions over what I just shared today? This was another nugget of what I shared at the Conquer Conference on how to maximize your existence. I'm going to repeat what I said. Get wisdom, find out who you are and why you're here. Going back to his word, getting the understanding, which means you got to do your research. You got to go to the people or the resources that he's placed in front of you. And with technology, we've got a wealth of resources. And then the last thing is get knowledge, apply the knowledge. And the best thing to do is do the thing that is in front of us, the most obvious step that is in front of us. We don't have to overcomplicate this, y'all. This is how you can maximize your existence. Okay. So with all that being said, tomorrow I'm going to share, because one of the questions that came up at the conference, somebody said, Tasha, I hear you, but I can't get past all of the junk from my past. I can't even focus right now on what you're saying, because all I hear up here is what I can't do, what I can't be. So I answered her question for her, and I'm going to save that for tomorrow, where we're going to talk about how do you stop the past from holding you hostage? How do you sever the cord? There's some principles that I want to share. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Sometimes we have to, on purpose, sever the cord, because it's like the past is this invisible rope that every time we try to take 2 steps forward, it wants to yank us back to try to remind us who we were. But if we're going to maximize our existence, we got to remind our past, not only of who we are, but where we're going. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. That's all I have, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye.